Tanya, the audience is yours.
All right, so I have to tell you right now that I'm so glad it's a small group. A couple of you would know this about me already. So I'm going to put myself out there and tell you that within the last month, I have a new trick, and that trick is that I am scared to get I have huge anxieties about talking to group groups. I don't know where it came from, it's brand new, but so please forgive me, and just if you can participate and engage in conversation, that will just make this go a whole lot smoother. So I thank you for that. So my name is Tanya Burfield. I work at Postsecondary College of Technology. I'm the manager of college transition. My role, here we go. So I'm trying really hard not to focus on this. My role is, I'm the manager of college transitions. And so we're really highly engaged with the K-12 world. We do a whole lot of career exploration activities with teachers and students. I'm going to come up here for a second. So I may finally come to my session because I don't know what's causing this other than just complete and utter overload.
We're a friendly group.
I know, and I appreciate it. I thank you so much.
You want to sit down?
That's the thing. I know half of you in this room, and I love you, and so I don't know what causes it, but here we are. So I appreciate the conversation anyways. So let me just backtrack. So we do a lot of career exploration activities for students. We do career day activities in the fall. We do high school. In the spring, we do middle school. So those are activities that students come in and they get to work with our faculty. They do demonstrations within the program. They have hands-on activities, and so they learn about the degrees, but then they also learn about the careers that affect those students. So it's a really fun, informal, and educational event for those students.
We had almost 1,000 people, 1,000 high school students at our career day in October.
In 4 years, we saw 16,000 students. That's pretty phenomenal to me.
Got a hand up in the back.
Yeah,
Just a quick question, like when you have like high school students that come to these things, like what is, how involved can they get with like doing like actual hands-on stuff? Is like insurance an issue or like the?
So we're not putting them in any dangerous situations, but they are in the welding labs and they're running simulators. So they're not welding, but they're welding with the simulator. They're in the nursing labs working on the sim dummies. They are climbing trees sometimes. We put them in a harness and up the trees they go, and the instructor's at the bottom controlling that. So they're not in any kind of dangerous situations, but they're still getting that hands-on experience.
I just think the summer camps are really good. I mean, I sent my own daughter to 3 of them.
Yeah.
I always tell kids about them. You know, I know you guys want to sell them in college, but I try to sell them even offshore to go there and check them out.
Yeah, so like I want to tell you more about what I do, but my objective here is not to sell you on one of these 4 pathways is better than the others, or you shouldn't be doing any of those. My belief is that you should be doing all of those for as many of your students as possible. We shouldn't be doing the service to our students, and only these students get AP, and these students are doing or sword credits. That's not what I believe we should be doing. But as Dave stated, his daughter came to summer camp last year with me. It was a Smart Girls Camp. It's a non-traditional camp for girls. It's a residential program for about a week. It's engineering based and costs $250. So for $250 last year, we did soft skill, that is what color is your parachute. So they're figuring out what environment they want to work in, what kind of setting they like. Do they want to live in the city? Do they want to live out in the country? That sort of thing. And then beyond that, they built drones. They ran an obstacle challenge course at the end of the week, and they got to take their drone home for $250.
Wow.
Last night, Dr. Gilmore,
Talked about Smart Girls.
she talked about Smart Girls, but she told everybody what the acronym stood for. It's the very first time I ever knew that the acronym actually stood for
It
something.
does.
And
It's science and math
mathematics.
and something in real world technology.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that's, I knew part of it, but I
Yeah.
couldn't remember the whole.
That acronym, I came on long after this has been evolved from 3 different departments, and so it was created.
Long before STEM or any of this
Yeah,
other stuff, because my
absolutely.
kids attended it as well. And I'm sitting here going, that is great that I never knew the acronym stood for something, and I've been involved
There it
with
is.
them
Who
probably
knew?
forever.
Not just Smart Girls. And then this coming year, we are working through the soft skill side of it in Stephen Covey's 8 habits of highly effective people. Anyway, so 8 habits of highly effective people, 14. So there's a team leadership series that he's created. And then we're doing something robotics. So we haven't quite gotten through that, but it will be definitely something based on requirements. One other just engagement that we do, we created based on 339 plans and the fifth grade benchmark that's required. My favorite day of the year and my least favorite day of the year, all wrapped into one. We had 1,500 fifth graders attend a science festival on campus. 1,500 fifth graders. That is a lot of herding cats, is what's happening there. They go to 2 different STEM-related sessions. One is typically put on by our culinary faculty, it's called Taste of Technology. Carnegie Science Center comes in and does some presentation. They've done robotics, they've done physics behind baseball. And then we have a better science event where local businesses and industries, high school students, college students, talking to them about how it applies, and they do some kind of hands-on demonstration of how science or STEM is applicable to their business or industry. Dual enrollment. We talk about our office is primarily responsible for dual enrollment in college now program at Penn College. We have about 1,500 students enrolled right now. So this year we're almost finished, not quite. I'm not going to talk about the program so much. I'm going to get a little couple jabs in there about what I think we do really, really well. But Monica runs that program. So the reason that I came up with this idea of doing this presentation here is because not quite daily, but weekly, I get emails or phone calls from counselors and educators that want to know, do I have dual enrollment with you? Do I have an articulation agreement with you? Do I have a program of study with you? And often those words are used interchangeably because no one understands. It's a really confusing process. No one gets which any one of them is. So I spend a lot of time educating because I became an overnight expert. It wasn't something I knew going in. So I figured it out, and so I spend a lot of time educating. And so what I want to do is talk about what are the benefits, what are the disadvantages of each one of those programs. So before I start that, I already told you my objective is not to tell you which one to do because I think we should be doing all of them. But before we start that, who can tell me what an articulation agreement is? Good, that's all I'm looking for.
It's a written agreement between the 2 institutions that shows what courses of this institution and what courses will count for at them receiving.
That is perfect. Yes, smart. I wish I had
Mhm.
And the roots of it, the DNA of it, are in the Perkins legislation prior to this Perkins legislation.
Correct.
When we had tech prep, and you had to have a college agreement in order to get a program approved as tech prep.
Correct. That's absolutely. Yep.
And then Dave did all his work, and
Yeah.
we didn't have to work so hard anymore, because now we have school.
Now we have to sort.
Right, but I think like Tanya's saying, there's multiple pathways for credit. And, so, and I get those calls as well.
Mhm.
Do I have a statewide, or do I have, is the state forming just a local program-to-program agreement? Or is the state going to fund dual enrollment credits? Because at one time, the state did have a line item money attached when I was in the classroom. And that's over 10 years ago, but you could put in, and the state would help to offset dual enrollment credit costs with students at one time. But they no longer do that. So yes, I get those similar phone calls, Tom. So that's why I'm glad we have you here.
All right, so you were spot on. It is an agreement that's 1-to-1. So there's one secondary and one post-secondary. And then typically the secondary says, we have this set of skills or this set of competencies. How's that work for you at the post-secondary level? And then we assign courses or credits. It could be 1, it could be 3, it could be 12, based on what that looks like. And so it's typically signed, it's a legal document signed by the highest or a high administrator at each site. It only works from those 2 institutions. So if State College has an agreement with Penn State, Bellefonte is bringing that same agreement into Penn State. Only State College is bringing that into Penn State and vice versa. What else do we have? So they typically come in. Where are we? I'm not sure who's on that.
That is mine.
Oh, that is yours. Perfect. I didn't know you were here. Fantastic. So credits are awarded, but typically grades are not. So on the transcript, you see welding 110, but no grade attached to that. So there's no grade accumulating in the GPA at the college level. I see a lot of heads nodding, so hopefully I'm not talking down in this. And then almost always, post-secondaries dictate what those those credits are going to be in almost every case. The other thing I didn't say is that when we were talking about advantages and disadvantages, all four of these pathways have an advantage. What is that?
Gain advanced credit.
Advanced credit, we're creating opportunities for students. That's all it comes down to, we're creating. So there's definitely that when it comes to this program, or to articulations. So, before I go to the next slide, because I'll give it away, what do you think are disadvantages of articulation agreements? They go away based on?
Number of years after graduation, if you don't use them.
Yeah, and that's dependent on the agreement. Everyone's different. I could have 4 agreements with you, and everyone would have a different standard.
Correct. And it depends on the school, and other things.
I imagine if you have 30 programs and 30 articulation agreements with 30 different institutions.
Yeah, so
30 days.
you heard me say it, I absolutely love what articulation does and what the benefit is. I hate articulation agreements. I really don't like them. They are so time intensive and resource heavy, and we are all of us are at a place that we're overworked and understaffed. And so to take the time and the resources and the efforts that it takes to maintain an articulation agreement can just be overwhelming. I mean, I told you that I get calls at least weekly. More often than not, it's 2, 3, 4 a week. So, that's another part of my job at this point.
And now through the SOAR, those articulations are taken care of by the state.
Yeah, we're gonna get to
So,
that one. Yeah, we're gonna get to that one.
That way,
Perfect.
you don't have to worry about the headache.
Exactly.
Mr. Gardner.
Yep. And so the other thing is, because they're not standardized, every secondary school and every post-secondary school has to create a system to track and maintain them. So that's why you're calling and asking if I have one, because the person that had the system before you maybe created one or maybe didn't, but you didn't get that information, so now you're trying to figure that out. And quite frankly, I'm in the same boat. Our department reorganized, and so I'm still trying to backtrack and figure out, did we do this? Did we not do this? Sometimes the secondary, I'll go to the academic school and the post-secondary and say, they say they have this. They say, no, we didn't do that. Then the secondary sends it to me, so I know we did it at some point. That's embarrassing, but there's no good system for tracking it. But then again, it's providing benefits to students, right? And then the other thing is that it does, Dave, maybe you can address this a little bit. It provides, so if they don't have a POS or if there's not a POS for a program, they can use it in the CAT system or for their state system.
Well,
Program
yeah, let's
approval?
talk about that, because it's a pathway for secondary schools to get approval for their programs. We have 2 program delivery systems, either Tech Prep or Program of Study. Program of Study is taken care of through a statewide articulation agreement, which the department forms with the partnering post-secondary institutions
Don't give
who
away too
receive
much.
purpose.
Don't give away too much of that.
Okay, I'm not. But you asked a question, for me to answer the question.
Just the one-to-one articulation.
The one-to-one articulations, however, are required in tech prep delivery programs through TAS. So that's when the high schools or the school districts or the entity offering the program that wants approval from PDE approaches Penn College and asks to form a local agreement, which is an agreement that is formed strictly between that entity and Penn College. And it is based upon a curriculum review that is done. Now, because there is a statewide articulation agreement, it doesn't impinge upon programs to form their own local agreements, because we only work with the Perkins allocated institutions, because we're federal. We're doing this under a federal initiative under Perkins 4.
And
Okay?
for those programs that still aren't POS developed by the state, we have to have a one-to-one.
Right,
So
so
it's
like
like
your
cosmetology,
program.
barbering, animal science, vet science.
DO,
Yeah, the DO, the different stuff.
right. So that's where that comes in, because that affects the funding of that program by the state whenever those students are reported in the PIMS system. PIMS is our Pennsylvania Information Management Center.
If anybody's looking for a good articulation partner, I'd recommend St. Francis. Nicole Bach is a good partner, and she'll write you an agreement and it'll be easy button. So if you need a partner for most any program, St.
Is that a college?
Yep.
Oh, yes, that's a very,
Where's that located?
it's located in western Pennsylvania. St.
West of
Francis.
Altoona.
I'm glad you shared that, Jane. I'm recording this, so I'm gonna be real careful about how I say this. To be like full disclosure, King College has been doing not a great job. I almost had to pull my words back there. Not a great job at creating articulation agreements for the last couple of years. I was really hoping that by today we would have an answer to that. There's a proposal on the table to fix it. I think it's coming. It'll probably be a couple more months till that happens. And when it does, you'll be talking to me every meeting about that. And okay.
It's okay. I love articulation.
All right. So, sorry. All right. So tell me, what are your thoughts on articulation? Do you love them? Do you hate them? Do you have students using them? Or are they a piece of paper that you're putting in? All of the above. Anybody?
From a director's standpoint, I like articulation agreements. And I like all the options because I don't think as a director of a school, it is my job to decide what the fit is for the student. And I think too many times we take a look at education and where it's at, and it becomes a one-size-fits-all basket. Either you do all of this or you do all of that. And there is room for all of these out there, and I think every school should be offering them. Tell the kids what they are, give them the opportunities to choose, and then our job is to assist them in the one that will meet where their outcome is and where they would like to be. So I think they're all very good.
Yeah. So you brought up a point I'm going to come right back to. Like relying on teachers and counselors for sharing that information. That's what it comes down to. And from my standpoint, in a lot of cases, it's a piece of paper that you require, and I get that. But it's not worth the time and the resources unless we're sharing that information with students and their families. So I see that as a little bit of a problem.
I'm early childhood, and so we don't have a lot right now. So I've been trying to make contacts with different universities, and everybody's like, yeah, this is a great idea. And then the emails stop, and 2 months later, I have nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
And I want this to happen because my students either want to go with their CDA certification or a 4-year degree for the most part. And so there's no point in them getting a certificate if they're going for the degree, but I need them to have incentive to go different places because of the 2 years that they spent with me. And it's a great concept, but very frustrating.
See me afterwards because we have an early childhood program with this 2-year degree, and our assistant dean for sciences, humanities, and visual communications happens to be that's his specialty, and so he gets really excited about working with schools on creating opportunities, and so he takes a lot of advanced credits, not advanced credits, or he'll take certifications and somehow get them in. So he might be really cool to do that.
Sometimes students, for one reason or another, don't qualify as SOAR qualifiers. So the one-to-one, we actually write agreements that sometimes overlay SOAR agreements. And the work's already done.
Actually, I hadn't thought about that, but that's a really good idea.
And so maybe they didn't end up taking the NOCTI or whatever.
Or they didn't get the permission or anything.
It's like insurance.
That's a really good idea.
With the SOAR, the instructors have to sign off on that those students have completed 100% of the competencies.
You're right, good.
And we will go back to that.
We're going, does anybody have another, we'll go to SOAR right now. Does anyone have anything else that they want to ask about articulation or the comment? Can anyone say I have students that have taken articulation credits with them to post-secondary? Good, that means you're talking to them about it. Good. All right, so program of study, what does it stand for? It's a SOAR. What does SOAR stand for? She's not even reading the screen. Awesome. So that's the key, occupationally and academically ready, right? That's the benefit that we're looking for. So in this case, remember I was talking about the one-to-one. So we have one school district and one post-secondary. In this case, it's many to many. So many school districts are looking at this set of competencies because the state, for each one of the SIP code, the bonus question, what does SIP stand for?
Transportation of Instructional Program.
There you go. So we have numbers. You all know, you recognize the numbers, right? And here is 15.9999. You know what that means. It's funny, we know what that means, but we don't know what SIP means. I had to look it up. The state will, for every one of those SIP codes, they'll have an advisory committee that comes up with that competency list that Ken was talking about. And it's a robust competency list. It means they're ready to go out to the world of work or they're ready to move into the secondary world with a set of credits. So they are robust, and they do have to meet every single one of those competencies at a proficient level, at a minimum. So anyways, whatever I was talking about, that was, every secondary can look at that list, and then every post-secondary can look at that list and say, if your students at the secondary level meet these competencies, we will award them with this number of credits. So again, it's an award, it's not a grade, so in the transcript, it shows the number of credits. It could be typically 9 or 12, but it could be less if we do it in a waiver. So it could be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. I've seen as high as 18. Is that probably about the max?
We were as high as 26 at one time, but then the college on the second task list revision scaled that back, literally.
That's high.
But we were as high as 26.
Nice. So, again, it's an award, not a grade. It's not counting the GPA. It's just giving those students that leg up that they wouldn't have had they not completed that. But there are some requirements. They have to earn a high school education. Like I said, they have to have a minimum of proficiency in every one of those competencies. They have to meet a 2.5 GPA out of a 4.0 scale. Is there another one? Oh, the end of the program assessment. So if it's a NACI or another assessment, they have to score at least a proficient on that as well.
Hey, before you go to that,
Yeah, go ahead.
I get a question once in a while at the Bureau. Why are those the qualifying measures for the students? It's because that's what the state committee decided. It wasn't Dave Garnes that sat down and decided we're going to make their life miserable. You know, we had a state committee of over 35 individuals of post-secondary and secondary schools, and it took us almost 2.5 years just to hash out what the agreement was going to say. Now, that being said, that agreement was amended once, and I think that's a pretty good amendment that we had to allow waivers to come in for under 9 credits. But for the most part, there's not a question that can be asked about the statewide articulation agreement that isn't addressed in some clause within that 15-page agreement. So, you know, those were the qualifying conditions. And we set the bar high because we don't want students to go on to post-secondary, get these credits, and then turn out to be failing the advanced courses. So that's why we set the bar high. And we sometimes forget about where we were as to how we got there. So now you know how we got there.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
So Dave alluded to this earlier, but every secondary, post-secondary that receives Perkins funding is required to participate in the program. The credits are valid for 3 years after graduation. So right about now, I start working with the state to get our programs and study ready for the graduation year 17-18. Any student that graduates within 18, 19, 20 will be eligible for those. So I like that, and I don't like that. It's kind of a twofold. So I like that they still have time to go out in the industry, decide that maybe they need to come back and they still have those credits available to them. Sometimes the question is 3 years enough, maybe, maybe not. But if not, they have the option of doing work experience or advanced credit, depending on the institution that they're at. So I think that's pretty good. There are 2 websites up here. One is the program of study website, and it's on your handout as well. And the other is collegetransfer.net. Everyone's familiar with collegetransfer.net. Yeah. So you can look on there to see which institution. So if you look at 15.9999 in the engineering, you'll see there's HAC and there's one other, there too. I think one other that have credits, I think 9 credits and 6 credits or something on them. So it's really straightforward, and it's really easy to share with families to show them what the benefit of those programs are. So we're going to start with you. Go ahead.
Maybe you said I was looking something up. The credit does not transfer to bachelor degrees?
That depends on, it's not meant to. It's meant to transfer to associate degrees because Perkins, this is Perkins based, and Perkins is based on associate degrees. I know our institution puts a 4-year degree in there just because.
But like, if, maybe I'm misinterpreting the way it's being stated. We give them the credits at our college for an associate degree, but if they decide to go on for the 4-year, it stays with them.
Correct.
Okay, I thought this was saying it doesn't transfer into.
No, sorry, it doesn't go directly into a bachelor's degree. And that's even in most cases. If you as an institution have the right to take them if you choose to, but it's not a requirement for Perkins. Did I say that right?
Well, it depends on where the credits are going, but the credit this way is aligned to an associate degree. But now, with the Transfer and Articulation Oversight Committee, TAOC, there's also statewide program-to-program agreements between the associate and the bachelor degrees where all the credits transfer.
Even if they don't complete the associate degree program. So let's say a student decides to change colleges. They go from college A where they started their associate degree, but they decide to change to college B for a bachelor's degree. Will those credits still follow?
It depends on what the receiving institution does in a transcript analysis from the sending institution.
But it's much better if the student transfers the degree from the community college in Pennsylvania to the Paschy School.
Right.
Because there's already an agreement for that.
It would-
That's a 2-year to 4-year articulation agreement.
So our advice to our students should be finish that associate degree and lock it in, and then do your transfer.
Even just within our own institution, that's exactly it.
Right.
Because even D's will transfer, because it's part of the degree.
But if you transfer schools, they
Or
won't.
course,
That's a good point.
Good point.
All right, how about disadvantages of SOAR?
I can't really think of any.
I didn't think that you would.
No, I just wish that more students, I wish more than 58
Everybody's
students
like,
were
we're not-
taking advantage of it this
Here,
year.
we'll slip you a note, we're not gonna say that out loud.
The great
Okay.
advantage
And
is
frankly,
the
I
website.
don't, yeah, I don't have a lot, to be honest. In the last one, I could go either way on. So the reach,
I just want to talk about another advantage of this.
yeah.
Because the state has done the legwork to create those program study task lists, they are also a foundation for students to get advanced credits when they go to non-Perkins affiliated institutions. And it helps them advocate for credit that they've actually earned. It also builds as a foundation for us to build one-to-one articulations. So the work is done, the state has done it. They've made an amazing job at having stakeholders come together from across the state at all levels, secondary, post-secondary, industry people, to make sure that those are industry validated credentials, or not credentials, but tasks. And boy, it just makes life so much easier.
And the website that all of this is hosted on is phenomenal to be able to go out and pull this information up, and the state needs to be given credit for that as well.
Yeah, and that's under a vendor contract. I don't know how well that would work if we would actually do it, because we're gonna have to. Well, wait a minute now, wait a minute. I'm being objective here. I don't know how well it would work. Simply because we have a team of 27 people at that vendor site
That's right.
that maintains that. We don't have a team of 27 people to maintain one website and one database at PDE. And that's why I'm saying that. We have a team of expert individuals. That's all they do is maintain. Because when I'm on the phone, they fix it.
Oh, absolutely, because
It's
I've
done.
found like a glitch here or there.
It's
I
done.
call Dave, they call, boom, done.
You know.
And they've even caught.
And that's why I'm saying that.
They've caught, like, I've made errors inputting my information, and they've caught it and
Right.
contacted me. That's amazing.
They're doing a great job.
Yeah, and I thank you for that. And I'll make sure that they know that. I'll take that back,
You
know,
can
to
just
the
take that
vendor.
clip and pass it right
Our
to
vendors,
them.
our vendors Academy 1, but the website is called collegetransfer.net.
Perfect.
But they also
They're in
maintain,
Chestertown.
yeah, but Ken, they also maintain the patrack.org website and the TAOC Transfer Articulation Oversight Center. So it's one vendor, but everything's tied together into one system. And that's,
Very good.
what we try to get through the legislation. So
They've made something extremely user-friendly for all.
I thank you. They're in other states, by the way.
Are they? That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, collegetransfer.net works with South Carolina, they work with a couple other states in their articulation work, but I think a plus for the SOAR is the out-of-state articulations. Pennsylvania is surrounded by, 7 other states? And within the other states, when they look at our child care and support service management program, and they want to align it to early childhood ed, and I go to them and I say, here's our task list, here's our courses. Their response is, you mean we only have to sign one agreement, and it includes all 67 programs that's operating in Pennsylvania, instead of signing 67 separate programs? Yeah. Where do I sign? Because the culinary arts program is our largest program. We have 111 operating programs secondary. We take that to SUNY or into Maryland, and they just need to sign one agreement that covers 111 schools in Pennsylvania. And there are students going in the northern tier to SUNY. There are students in Fulton, Bedford, Somerset, Westmoreland, Franklin, and Fulton County who are going to Allegheny College of Maryland, who have satellite campuses in Pennsylvania, established brick and mortar buildings. So that's a plus. Sometimes we only think about Pennsylvania, but we're thinking of the Northeast here, you know. And I think that's an important part.
I'm not sure that's a really good point. So who here knows those students that you have that have used program of study with Postsecondary? No, that's actually not from there. There were 58 students this school year that used it, which is way up from the year before that was in the 30s, I want to say.
No, the year before that, it's a little down. I think the year before that, maybe we had like, I don't know, 70
Okay, I was thinking it was a big jump, maybe that was from 2 years ago.
But, yeah, I wish more people would use it.
Well, here's the thing, this is what I think, is it comes down to education. It's not that the program doesn't work. I think that it works. I think it's a good program. We're just not talking about it. We're not educating our students, or our teachers, or our counselors aren't educating them. So that's really what it comes down to, is asking the questions. How does this fit? And is the student able to use it? Because if we as an institution, if we recognize that there's a pathway taken to the high school, we immediately send the competency checklist to the high school counselor, who hopefully sends it to the school teacher, who gets to check whether it's proficient or not proficient for each one of those competencies to return to us for those credits. It's really that easy. It's not, it doesn't have to be hard, but it's really just that basic education that we need to get.
I think too, before I worked at Penn College, I was a school counselor at a high school. So we were sending school to a CTC. And I didn't know anything about program of study, and I did that job for 10 years. I didn't know anything about program of study until I came here and started working for Attained, and really got the breakdown of it. Because if I had a student that was at our CTC, I would say, well, you can go talk to the CTC counselor about that. Well, no, sending school counselors need to be aware of that as well, so we can start using that language and start talking to students about all of their options, because we had dual enrollment where I was, so those students could have taken dual enrollment and AP and program of study and really made the most of all of those experiences. But because I didn't know, I didn't use that language, and I didn't talk to students about that, and so there was a breakdown.
We also have had in the past a barrier for certain career fields, like HVAC, because those courses at the post-secondary were offered as modules, not as semester long. And so for the students who were getting SOAR credit, generally they're the entry-level courses. So they wouldn't start in September with the rest of the cohort. One time, if those students had been in a cohort, there would have been enough to make it go. But because they didn't start with the cohort, the whole cohort was canceled for lack of enrollment.
That's so sad.
So another way that this has helped is that one of the campus directors for Delaware County Community College recognized that this was a pathway for students, and he created a cohort. He recruited out of the HVAC class who's going to be a SOAR qualifier. I will build a START class for you in September, and he took it through the certificate, so that by December they were done with an HVAC certificate. So it was a down and dirty, in and out, and then they could continue on for the associates, but at least they already had a path and got started.
That happens with us as well, especially like on our motive. They work in modules throughout the semester, usually like 4 classes.
Right, everybody else is leaving for school, and I'm still sitting home because I got advanced credit.
Right. Or they're taking their core classes for the entire time and not missing out on the people that they really want to be involved with.
Right.
Can I just say maybe a disadvantage, and I've seen this more in some of the sessions, because I'm on the post-secondary side, is when they do fill out those task grids, not knowing depth and breadth of the programs, and everybody having their own methodology of determining proficiency.
I'm glad you brought that up. So because I wasn't going to. But I will be honest, there are some of my faculty that they don't want to work with me on program of study. And it comes down to the fact that they've had a couple of teachers that said, these students are proficient in everything, and thinking that they're helping the student, when really they just serve a huge disservice to that student, because now the student went to the advanced level and they weren't ready for it. And in a lot of cases, they're not going to get ready for it at that point. They either have to start again, which sets them a year back in their college education, or they are just me, and I know I've called Dave and said, what are my ramifications here? What do I get to do about this? And the only thing I can do is call that teacher and say, you're really sure you meant to check proficient? But at that point, it's too late for that student, so.
That's one of the reasons why we have never used SOAR, because
Are you secondary or post-secondary?
we're secondary.
Okay.
Because I don't necessarily like the idea of my teachers signing off on my kids, because they would do that. And then we're in Philadelphia, so I've talked to ACCP and they're like, we'll take your kids with SOAR. When one of them comes in not ready, we will take it. So it's like that, which we've developed a whole system where I think we're addressing that, but it's something that like, that's the thing that scares me about SOAR, is taking the teacher out of it, because if the teacher doesn't like the kid, kid's not proficient. Teacher loves the kid, kid's proficient. That relationship piece scares me a lot.
Yeah, I can see that. So how do you fix that? How do you work around that articulation agreement?
I'm presenting on it next.
Okay, fantastic.
Oh, what a good teaser.
Which room that is?
Right here.
Right here? Right here. I had that marked on my thing. Perfect. All right, any other questions about program of study? We're good? So AP is, I know enough to be dangerous. Who here has students using AP? Yeah, it's way more prevalent, and I'm sure you can probably school me on it, but I'll tell you what I know. And that is that they are college equivalent freshman classes taught by your high school teacher with their syllabi that have been approved by the college board, that's the group that approves those. At the end of the year, so the student works all year long, and at the end of the year, they take that exam that costs $92, and if they get a score high enough, they get to take that to the post-secondary if the post-secondary approves it. There's a trend across post-secondary that the scores are getting higher and higher and higher. And then in some cases, they give you credit. Some cases, they don't give you credit. They'll give you the award of the credit, or they'll give you the grade. It's totally up to them, however they choose to handle that. Typically, they are based on core academics. And let's see, I wanted to, so at Penn College, this is how we handle it. Like I said, everybody handles it a little bit differently. We award credits based on the AP scores, but those scores are typically pretty high. So the first one that you see there is literature and composition. They have to score 4 out of 5 in order to get the credit for that, which is English 111, our basic freshman English comp class. Let's see, we got it covered. On the last slide, and it's in your handout, there were 2 links that were on there. The first is for the advanced placement homepage on College Board. And then the second one is where you can find this list for all of Penn College. So it's only Penn Colleges, everybody's in it.
Just as an interesting thing, we just introduced advanced placement at my school. My wife happens to be the one teaching it. And then she's at school to get her master's in ed leadership, and all of the private schools are doing away with AP because they don't think it's good enough. So it's like almost phasing out, sort of like you said, that the score keeps going up.
It does,
That
yeah.
like the really high level private schools aren't even offering it anymore, where they said 10 years ago it was all the rage. Now that everybody's figured it out and is offering it, they're like coming up with a new thing that.
Well, and I think you're right about that, but then I also think there's this huge movement with career and technology education. And so this is core. These are core classes. And so we need to be looking at and focusing on skills and trades and those kinds of things as well. And that those translate into college as well. So I think that we, as a group, secondary and post-secondary, are just looking at balances. So Jane's got this look on her face like I'm off my rocker.
Actually, it's something that like the light bulb. One thing that we haven't been talking about is CLEP. And I actually had a student in high school CLEP English and get that credit when he went forward. I think we've always talked about CLEP once you're in college and haven't moved it down into high school.
I wonder about the future of AP, and like some of the things he was saying. I see a lot of kids, even if they get the score, they're not getting at the colleges where they want
Yeah,
it.
I mean, let's talk about the disadvantages. They busted their butt all year long. They did well in the course. They get a B, they get an A. The day of the test, they got grounded the night before and they're stressed out. Or they have test anxiety. I know a little bit of anxiety. You saw at the beginning of this presentation. They, whatever. They didn't sleep well. They were, whatever it is. They had a bad morning and they didn't test well. That whole year's work is like down the
Plus,
tubes.
the teacher was restricted to teaching to that test, so there was less academic freedom.
I guess this is just a conversation that we've been having as a school. that is all true, but the benefit of being told you're doing college work and being able to earn an actual legitimate weighted GPA offsets it enough, right?
If you
So, like,
get the
the kid
weighted-
passes the
well,
test and not
GPA,
doesn't matter, if
absolutely.
you graduate with a 4.5, because you have AP credits, that is worth it,
yeah.
as well as the experience of being in this.
The kids that are shooting for class rank valedictorian, they want the grades.
Right, exactly. They deserve it.
They want the AP classes, and
Agreed.
that's what the general public knows, so that's what they're gonna do.
Yep, agreed.
The thing is, I want to give away with it. Like, our kids have options, like the same class, they can take an AP or dual enrollment.
Right.
I'd rather you take a dual enrollment any day of the week.
And why? Why is that?
They're gonna get college credit, it's gonna transfer.
The whole
other
year's
places.
worth,
Yeah,
yeah.
AP, it's a real good question.
You know what I didn't talk about in here, and I don't know, is it only valid for a certain amount of time?
AP exam credit's only valid for
Is it 5 years?
5 years. It's up to the post-secondary to decide.
Okay.
3 years, 5 years,
it's
so,
not standard.
you know, after 3 or 5 years, your score goes away.
Yeah.
And you can't use it.
And it is, like, it's nationally recognized, it's a national standard, so there are great benefits to it. It gives our students a leg up, that's what we're talking about, that's what we're trying to create. So I'm not trying to take away from it, I'm just telling you what I see are the disadvantages, but I think it has its time and its place. Question? Okay. Dual enrollment, one of my favorite topics, and probably the thing I know the most about. So Monica is our dual enrollment coordinator, specialist at Penn College. Our program
Special.
She is special. Our program is called Penn College Now. I'll talk about that a little bit, but really there are several models. So there's concurrent enrollment. Can anyone tell me the difference between concurrent enrollment and dual enrollment? Or is it just usually a definition of enrollment? So concurrent enrollment is taught in the high school by the high school teacher. That's what we do. So we are NACE accredited, one of two in the state. It's National Alliance of Concurrent Enrollment Partnerships. Not the way it's trying to back that up. So that's what we do. There are also dual enrollments that the college teacher comes into the high school and teaches a class at college or to the high school students. There are programs that the student goes on to campus at the college and learns within the body of college students, or even online. So they're going to college online and working within the environment of college students. So those are all valid models. I think that, you know, the points that you made about the benefits of AP all relate to dual enrollment. Dave's point that, because we're just going to break into the advantages and disadvantages. Dave's point that you work all year, you earn that grade, you know how you're doing the course all year. You're working harder, you're working less, depending on how you're doing, you're getting remediation as you need it. Pays off because you've got that credit no matter what happens. Like, you earned that grade all year long. It's not based getting in trouble the night before or being stressed out about that one exam. You earn that credit throughout a period of time. So it is a credit. You get that in your transcript, you get that grade on your transcript, so it counts in your college GPA. Costs vary depending on each institution. So ours happens to be free for students. We don't charge students anything, and their accessibility is really important to us. There's an administrative fee that happens with post-secondary or with the secondary. So the max is based on the number of courses that you have in your school. So our max is $2,500. Many institutions offer a reduced rate for whether they're coming to you or you're going to them. Some don't do that. We don't do it outside of our program. So if a student chooses to come to our campus, they pay the full tuition rate to do that. The big one is that it's valid for 10 years typically. Those credits are good for 10 years. So if they finish their high school education and don't want to continue on post-secondary, they go out and they work for 5 years and decide that, you know what, maybe I should go back, or maybe the place that I went to work is going to pay for me to go back. They can do it part-time, they can do that and still have those credits available to them. So I really appreciate that. We offer both education and technical courses. Not everyone does that. Some only offer general education courses. It's always important that they're one-to-one. So that English 111 class in the high school is our English 111 class in college. And typically transfers, that's up to the receiving institution, so typically will transfer as that raise the level English class. And it's transferable. Okay. Yeah? Good. So what are disadvantages of dual enrollment?
student fails a class, they have an F, they didn't even graduate from high school yet, they've got an F on a college transcript. That's the most frequent call I get. What do you mean?
It's true.
My son or daughter has an F, they're still in high school. How could they have that on a college transcript?
So it's on their transcript and has an impact on their financial aid.
Narrative?
That's correct, but I will also say, from an administrative side, if a student leaves my school with an F, I'm going to say that I had somebody who didn't do their job as well, because there are many checks and balances along the way that give the individuals an avenue to get out of that system at certain points in time. So I think that also becomes a priority where we have to monitor that situation so it doesn't happen. And I'm not going to say it's foolproof, because it does happen.
Right.
I know it does. But there are avenues. Once they enroll in a program like this, it's very easy for them to be able to realize at certain points in the course that, you know what, maybe I'm not ready for this, and I thought I was. And in our situation, there's only one course that we offer that student would have to be removed from that classroom. All the other courses are taught concurrently with a regular high school class. So
But that's taught in your school.
in our school.
I'm talking about a student who takes a dual enrollment class on a Saturday, goes to the college campus, tells to the parent, hey, I'm going to class, never shows up, and then at the end of the semester gets an F.
Yeah,
That's what I'm talking
probably
about.
pays full price for
And
it.
that happens, Ken, it happens. So, it depends on the setting and who's monitoring the student as to how well dual enrollment's going to work.
I agree with
I
that.
would also be willing to look, if we looked at that, there's checks and balances there too. We can't take the parent out of the equation. They need to be asked the questions, show me your grades, show me your midterm, show me where you're at with what's going on.
Hey, I'm working, that's the college's responsibility. I'm working. That's what's allowing my kid to go to college. Let them tell me. I'm playing devil's advocate here because,
Right,
hey,
it's true.
there it is.
I mean, at the post-secondary level, a lot of even enrolled students, and I can talk about Penn College, freshmen come on campus, and our office is also with academic services, which is placement testing and freshman year scheduling. So one of the secretaries, I hear her say the same thing 60 times a day with phone calls. Actually, I can't give you that information
That's
because
right.
your student hasn't. What? So even if on campus, the parents of our full-time students don't know that, parents of high school students don't understand that FERPA applies, and that professor doesn't have to tell you squat.
Nor
If
should
your
tell you.
child
They're not allowed to.
hasn't, right, if your child hasn't given them what high school
Yeah.
student who's failing a college class is
But I
gonna
pay that
claim
bill.
their
What do you mean?
call the professor, like.
I mean, I like dual enrollment, don't get me wrong, but I'm telling you, that's an underbelly
Oh,
side of dual
I agree. I
enrollment.
think there's more too. Like there are, I'm gonna say this and hopefully that it comes out in a good way. There are institutions out there that are selling the credits. They're not using high integrity. So they'll walk in and they'll say, oh, yeah, that student passed that class in medical history. They're $300. Here's the credits for that. That's not dual enrollment. They're selling it that way and they're getting a college transcript, but it's not. You're not doing the student any favors by doing that. They haven't gained the confidence and they haven't had the experience that they could have had. So there aren't very many that I know of that are doing that, but it's out there and it's happening. So my advice to you is to make sure that you're working with an institution that does have integrity and that they're doing what's right for your students and that you are serving your students in that case. We talked about we have withdrawal dates, so they can withdraw if they're not doing well or they didn't and they realize that it's not for them. The other impact that happens, Jane and I were talking earlier about their placement data. So we don't allow students just to sign up and take it. They have to pass our college placement test because we're accredited. The same standards apply. They have to apply, just like a college student has to apply, and they have to take the placement test. So they have to meet the reading level that every student coming into Penn College has to meet, which is a 10.7 grade level. And then depending on the class that they're taking, there could be a math requirement as well. So if they don't meet that, they don't get to take the class. And if I'm a junior or I'm a senior and I didn't meet that requirement, I think that creates a negative impact on me because if I can't do it now, why would I even consider doing it later? So I think there's that. So what are the benefits? I've got some written, but I'm sure you have other ones. Monica, I'm gonna pick on you.
free or low-cost college credit is starting in high school.
So,
Time and money.
just a little
Number
bit to
one.
brag, last year, we gave away $2.7 million worth of free tuition to our students. We tried to hide that for a really long time, because we were really panicked that someday we would see that and say, this program is done. But our president, if you were here last night, she gave a keynote, she was like, you better start blasting it out there, I wanna see it on marketing materials, and we're like, oh, good, all right, we're right with that, but it's a huge, we're not recouping that money, we're recouping maybe the cost of the placement test, but for us to run the program and the faculty liaisons that we pay and the visits that they make to our institutions, we're not cost. What we're hoping to do is create a relationship with our students so that they go to college. Yeah, and then, again, transferable, we don't take them away, they're welcome to transfer them, they can ask you to transfer them.
So the advantage for dual enrollment, many times parents and students only focus on transferability. I want to go to the community college, why would I take that course, it's got to transfer. But in fact, there are so many more benefits to the student relative to college applications. They've already proven college proficiency. Job applications, maybe you want an RA, the scholarship application, because that's the tip factor, that you've already taken on more work, proven college rigor, so it goes way beyond transferability, and that conversation has to be a full conversation, not just, I don't want to go there, why should I take it, right? Those are all great valid points.
Same weighting as an NP class in my school. So,
And you know what, our program requires that. Not everyone wants to follow that rule, and we have trouble with sending schools that are, when we're teaching this at a career and technology center, the sending schools don't always want to follow that, but we require it. That those students are getting college credits, why wouldn't we be giving them the same weight as an AP? Does anybody have dual enrollment outside of college now?
So I'd like to give an example of a student who we have dual enrollment for. So we have Penn College, Harrisburg University, Delaware County Community College, and Mackinac. The student in our computer programming course, we have concurrent enrollment with the community college as well as with Harrisburg. So the student got 9 courses in programming with the community college.
I think the whole camera is someone tumbled down back there.
Plus 4 credits from Harrisburg University, and he clept English. So 9 plus 4 plus the clep. Plus he took an open dual enrollment gym. And when he went to Harrisburg, because he had already proven college proficiency, they gave him $100,000 scholarship.
Whoosh. I thought our $4,000 scholarship was pretty nice. Wow, that's amazing. It's a really good example.
Well, this sounds like nothing.
It's hard to follow that.
I find that
I teach an entrepreneurship course through University of Iowa, and my students are eligible upon they take Iowa's final through Iowa's portal, and then they're eligible for the 3 college credits. But my high school will only award honors credit weighting to my class, even though 75% of my students get those credits, and they are transferable. I think the Ivy Leagues are the only schools that won't take it.
They typically won't take our transfers, even if we're still for sure. Any other questions or examples or things that you want to talk about in relation to any of those 4?
Does Penn College have any agreements with out-of-state institutions outside of Pennsylvania that they're accepting students from New Jersey or New York, Ohio, Maryland? Do they have anything like that?
Sort of. So I said earlier, I don't think that we're doing a fantastic job at articulation agreements. Dual enrollment is only in state. We're saturated. We're to the point that we're not taking any partners until 1920. So articulation agreements, sometimes they're really hard to just track and maintain right now, but there are, especially if they're getting high school certifications that are like a national standard certification in aviation or automotive or health science, they'll bring those in as credits, but there's not necessarily a written agreement.
But they're probably still local program to program? Nothing statewide?
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
No, not
Right.
statewide. You're welcome.
We have about 4 minutes.
All right.
Tanya, you have anything else? that
I
you
have
want-
nothing else to add, so.